Yo guys, it's JD here, back again for another video. Apologies for the delay. I know I got, I guess now, um, 3 episodes behind, so I do apologize. Just some work stuff came up, and I'm still trying to finish up some art, like you guys saw in my community post. But again, this is all coming out. I'm getting back into the grind, guys. So I really appreciate that, and some of the comments, wishing me well until I could post anything. So I do appreciate that. Today we're gonna actually review episodes 8 and 9 together. And then my next video will be just 10, and then some of the crazy lore dumps. So some of the stuff was edited when I had, first watched the episode, and then there's some cutoffs. But anyways, episode 8 was definitely, I think, the best episode of Daima. It really finally pushes the scope of the plot, in the horizon. If you saw my discussion with Unreal on that video, we just laid out our concerns about kind of the pacing. It's now known that there's 20 episodes, according to Geekdom, and so we were just worried about the pacing, if there's enough time for the fights, and then some other little things that we think could have happened earlier. But again, Daima is an evolving product. We have not seen the final result yet. But again, this episode was very well choreographed. The Tamagami fight, the way it starts, it's just an intense back and forth. The soundtrack that they keep using for some of these fights is really good. I think the soundtrack for Daima is honestly better than Super, I think, barring a couple like TOP soundtracks. But yeah, the fight was very well choreographed. The back and forth with the Neobo and hammer combat with the Tamagami 3, very OG Dragon Ball. It felt like a tournament, very, or even Z Goku. It felt like Z Goku as well. There's a lot of that you could see in that fight, in that back and forth. And it also reminded me from the manga, some of the melee combat between Gas and Goku, especially when Gas got his upgrade. Very brutal, and some of the angles, how they drew Goku's character with the extension of the power pole and Yobo. It was just, like, I can't wait for Dokkan to give us that. Like, I'm really excited on those characters being in the games, and I really do hope Spark and Zero gives us Tamagami 3. I think they will. But yeah, like this fight was really good. It was about 6-7 minutes, but it was a very good fight. It was pretty even too. Like we all kind of thought, Tamagami 3 would be the first kind of warrior to kind of give Goku a little bit of a run for his money based off the timeline setup. Tamagami 3 does corner Goku with his hammer when Goku's kind of getting some distance between himself, and Goku's using the Neobo to kind of prevent the hammer from crushing him. And then this is when Goku powers up to Super Saiyan. So, we all thought that Goku was going to power up, but he's already used Super Saiyan before. And then once this happens, it does become a little bit less one-sided. Goku just super, the speed factor increases, durability increases. Tamagami's, I guess you could say, Goku's hitbox is a problem for him because he's so huge, like Magenta or Magneta from Universe 6. So that's kind of like how the kind of fight just went back and forth. Very reminiscent too, like when Goku transformed into Super Saiyan, it was very reminiscent of Super Saiyan Vegeta from the Broly movie, and animation wise as well. And I think Jordan brought up this point about how it's similar to the cosmic egg motif from Wukong and Journey to the West. You could see that too in some of the shots. It's very apparent. So this really sets up the theme of kind of like what's going on with Daima as a whole. Like I've said in some previous videos, I mentioned that there was a purpose with like the harsh air density and the characters not understanding ki. Now with episode 8, it's all the more clear. Just like with the TOP, we are seeing the stage set on the mortal level of the demon realm, of the denizens of the demon realm. And Goku's character archetype, since it is based on Wukong, who was a demon through the teachings of Buddhism, was able to reach the state of a Bodhisattva, right, a Buddha. This is a core tenet that they stress, which is universal compassion, helping all beings escape the cycle of samsara and suffering, yada. As you may have seen in my End of Z Explained video. Jordan the Dragon Lee also has hammered this home on Twitter, on his channel, some of his tweets, and even some of his own personal content like Dragon Ball Daima. So definitely check out Jordan if you haven't already, because he's definitely been doing a good job hammering this home. So Goku's fighting style and wanting to best Tamagami 3 as a martial artist is best seen when he breaks the hammer once he transforms into Super Saiyan. and then they choose to fight, martial artist to martial artist, hand to hand. Definitely love that. I really like that moment, and that was part of a test, I think, with Tamagami 3, getting into my next point. So, as the Super Saiyan Goku versus Tamagami 3 fight, as it gets to the climax, Tamagami 3 does use what appears to be a ki blast. It could be inferred to be the magic, since we do know that the denizens of the Demon Realm don't understand ki. But since the Tamagamas are products of magic, they're products of the Dragon Balls, which represent enlightenment, it is arguable that they actually would know ki. So it can go either way, and there definitely seems to be a connection between ki and magic. I would wait before giving my final thoughts on that, just because I'm waiting for more information to make it either completely obvious or if there's something else. But that's definitely what it seems to be. So I think more will be revealed later. Now, Tamagami 3 does do this really crazy animation. Reminds me of, again, Magneta from Universe 6 with the steam and all of that. I don't think he's a robot. I think he is like a sentient creature. But you get this cool, great Sheeta cut. It's like 360 frame, Kamehameha. And it was beautiful. Best animation I think we've seen so far since the Broly movie. Goku does go Super Saiyan 2, like me and Unreal and I think some others said, we based on some of the previews, you could see shots of Super Saiyan 2 Goku in a trailer, and it looked like the scene from Tamagami 3. And that's what ended up being the case. So, and the beam struggle they have, it's very obvious once Goku went Super Saiyan 2. Tamagami 3 was best at that point. He could not continue the fight. He does deflect the attack, but then Goku comes in with an elbow jab, which defeats Tamagami 3. At least for the first test, and that's where we get to the next point. So there's a series of tests, a challenge of wits. And some people were questioning this, like why did this happen? Goku went fair and square. It's true. Goku did beat Tamagami 3 fair and square in a martial arts fight. But since this is a journey about enlightenment and a journey about testing people's character, there is mental things that go into play. And this is a test that kind of tests, or I don't want to say test, but this is a challenge to see into the hearts of those who are seeking the Dragon Balls, right? Going back to the pure heart motif, which you've seen in Dragon Ball, OG, and other parts of the medium. Pure heart, Kokoro, right? Geekdom has done videos on this. Check them out if you haven't. But this goes back to kind of what I said again, and others, about the thematic representation that the Tamagamis are representing a guardrail against those beings who are selfish and with bad intent, right? So we don't want Friezas. We don't want people even like Vegeta, that could potentially make a selfish wish. And so this is a test just to weed out those that don't have a pure heart. Going back to the Namekian trials. So the way Tamagami 3 tests Goku for the second trial is with magic cups, which is kind of funny, right? So the Dragon Balls are put under one of the possible cups, and then of course, a very fast character, so the audience is left to wonder, how could anyone see that? But of course, this is Goku we're talking about. Tamagami 3 thought he could trick him, but he couldn't, and like some people thought the Dragon Ball was not in the cups, so it was a little trick, but Goku was not fooled. So, Goku passes the test, and he does get the Dragon Ball. And this is a very great, heartfelt moment. The music, the beat of the opening is playing, and this is what I like. This is what so many people like. We want to see some of that OG vibe, and this was, I think, the perfect example of that. Just the fight, how it was a tournament. It was, both combatants were pretty, even in terms of what they dished out, and I loved every second of it. Now, the scene does switch to Glorio and Arinsu, Glorio does report to Arinsu that Goku and his company have obtained the third realm Demon Dragon Ball. Arinsu's pleased, and so they begin the next step of the plan. So this is where the pacing picks up. Goku and Co. prepare to travel to the Warp Sama for Demon Realm 2, but Goku and Vegeta, Vegeta and his company are en route to them. So they decide to go to a hotel for the night, and then at the same time, the scene switches to Goma and Degasu, who were watching the events of the Buu Saga again, and notice that during the fight with Fat Buu and Vegeta's final explosion, there was someone there. And of course, like many people predicted, it was Dr. Arinsu, right? We knew that she visited the upper mortal universe. She was given funding by Deborah, so it makes sense that she would do something like this. But interestingly enough, she was there to collect samples of Majin Buu, and she was able to get one piece of the tendrils from the explosion. So Goma and Degasu are, they're wondering what Arinsu's planning, and then it cuts back to her, and then with Dr. Arinsu, we see her go to some world within the first, I'm assuming it's the first demon realm. We don't really know yet, but with the visuals and the color palette, it does match the first demon realm. It also gives me vibes with Beerus's world. It's very divine or majestic, for a reason, and it's very eerily similar to those things. So it's got this big majestic tree. Now, I did say in a couple of reviews, I thought that that tree, which we saw in the trailer as well, I thought it was like, the core tree, the Senjin tree from the Kaioshin lore. It does not appear that it appears to be some kind of different type of tree, but it's not related to that, at least from what we know. So definitely was wrong on that. But the good thing is, I think we're still getting Glen lore, so we're gonna see more stuff like on some of my issues with the Makai, the Kaioshin, where that's gonna fit in. So we'll see. And so in this area with this tree, there's like this witchy vibe, this witchy architecture and taverns and stuff like that, very medieval. And we see Arinsu, she's on a broom, so again it very fits the motif of like the the witch persona, the scientist. And she goes to some lab with all kinds of concoctions, and we see a character who is some kind of Majin witch named Marva. Again, credit to Geekdom for being the first to showcase these designs before the show aired. This is 1-to-1. She was working on some kind of stew, and the implications, of course, is that she's creating some kind of new Majin Buu. And so when they're talking about Buu, this is when a big piece of lore is dropped, that it's actually Marva who is the one who actually created Majin Buu and is responsible for the chaos in the demon realm. Many people believe this is a retcon. I don't think so, because it was told that Bibbidi was the one who who conjured up Majin Buu, and then there are some other Dazenshu statements from Toriyama that kind of relate to that. We know Bobby's father, even in Z and the manga, well, I guess it was Z in the filler when we see the Kid Buu stuff, but there was always a way to interpret that there could have been more to that story, and that's how I viewed this. Is that it was a very general statement that you could go and kind of extrapolate further from, and so I think Toriyama basically went in the direction that Bibbidi had to use someone else to conjure up Buu. To me, that doesn't really seem like a retcon. It just seemed like another detail that we didn't know about. Now, because it is coming after the fact, I understand the whole how it can be perceived as retroactive. But again, you could have inferred that it may have not been like Bobby or Bibbidi may have had help, because again, it was very evident that they came from the demon realm, and again, I just feel like you could make that argument. So as of right now, I don't have a problem with that unless something else comes up to challenge that. So and even with the Buu thing existing since time immemorial, I never thought that was an issue, because even in the word, we know that there could have been time that was not part of the documented history. Just like with in real life, where there's a period of time that just humans run around that we just don't know of, except for using things like radioactive dating and whatnot. So very similar concept. I just think that a lot of people are being very nitpicky on that. But it is very evident that the demon realm has existed since even before the creation of the upper universes. That's what it looks like to me. So the episode ends with Arinsu giving some of the DNA, some saliva basically, and there's all kinds of jokes about that, to the stew to better control the new Buu. And Vegeta and his group are having like a funny gag moment about his ego with Hibis because of the way he kind of talks to him. He's not even a king. I think that was really funny. Hibis is actually becoming one of my favorite characters. But overall, I thought this episode was a 9.5 out of 10. I really wish the fight could have been longer, but for what it's worth, it did its job. Definitely was the best episode so far. Now, in regards to episode 9, I just want to address something I did make on Twitter. If you guys follow me, I did make a statement about how I think that with the few seconds and stills that we got of episode 9, that it appeared to be a filler episode. Oh, I said it is a filler episode, and I was worried about that. I didn't get a chance to fix my tweet. I don't have like the blue Twitter thing where you can edit your tweets or whatever, but I was worried, and this is like going back to the Unreal conversation. We were just worried about the pacing and how it's only 20 episodes, and I'm eating up every single thing that we're getting in the story. So I was just a little bit worried that I don't think there's enough time to afford filler. But it was a bad statement, because obviously, like from a semantics point of view, I don't know, right? Because the episode hadn't happened at that time. I don't know. So it would have been better to say it's probably filler, but even then, you know, it's an argument that could easily kind of fall out of place because, you know, sometimes they don't give you certain things that you want to see in the previews. So, you know, I was just worried because of the Sandlord, the Mechians, the Glens, heck, even how it may tie to Super with the Destroyers, Zeno, the Angels, Dark Kings. So I do want to apologize that Geekdom did call, he did basically say that, that's kind of like a bad take, and he's right. So I did make a public apology, in case some of you guys may have seen that. But this is good. This is a good thing because. This is just to serve as a reminder for us all that we should kind of reserve judgment until we see the final thing. And this episode, as I'm about to get into, was definitely better than kind of what we were expecting, what I was expecting. So the episode does begin with a little side quest with Goku and Ko going to the hotel to rest. The hotel denizens appear to be bandits, and because of Goku's success with Tamagami 3, he now has a target on his back. Pretty obvious. Now the bandits become aware in the scheme of situation where they're able to extract the Dragon Ball and jack them. And you have this little scene, this back and forth where they do catch up, where Goku catches up to them. They have a little skirmish. Goku gets the Dragon Ball back, and they have like a little Team Rocket moment. The bandits. And this was another character that Jim reported on. So again, shout out to him. But my only issue with this part of the episode is it was a little bit longer than it needed to be. It wasn't half the episode, but I feel like you could have condensed it a little bit more, because the rest of the episode there's a lot of lore. But getting to that, Goku does stay up. He stays up for the night to try and guard the Dragon Ball again, but he falls asleep. Very Goku moment. And then we get to a scene where they're leaving to go meet up with Vegeta and Co. We do get some exchanges with Vegeta and Goku about their progress in the Demon Realm, because obviously Vegeta's a little bit butthurt that Goku's already kind of making a name for himself with Tamagami 3. They can't include Vegeta's group in the ship because it's too small, referring to the Gender Marie ship. We do get a flashback as to how Vegeta's group lost their ship, and you get this crazy nightclub scene, which I never thought I would see in Dragon Ball, like just a nightclub. It's a little demon nightclub. Vegeta's serving drinks, which is hilarious, to his wife and everything, and he basically like pushes up against a random demon, just like something you see in like a sitcom or something. And it's eerily similar to the Obi-Wan scene from episode 2, but basically Vegeta basically beats them up, and they pay him back by stealing his ship. So it's another parallel, right? Goku, he gets into a conflict, and I think it was like episode 3, and then their ship gets stolen. So that's okay. That's a good example of parallelism, in terms of like why they did that. Now, as Goku continues to pursue the Demon Realm Dragon Balls, because they decide to head on out and until Vegeta and them can get a new ship that Pansy's going to provide. Vegeta's trying to blow off steam, and luckily for them, those demon goons come back, and they have their ship basically out in the little near area. So we do get some great animation with Vegeta and Piccolo. They effortlessly beat these goons. Again, most of these people don't have any knowledge of ki. Great animation though. You get to see this horse with boxing gloves, which again, shout out to Geekdom. This was a character you hinted at. Very ridiculous character, by the way, but they do bully it's really what it is. Vegeta's just bullying the goons into revealing where they hid the ship, which wasn't far, so now they have their ship. Basically, they don't need Pansy's father to supply the ship. The episode ends with a huge divisive moment, I think, with a lot of the fandom, where we see Arinsu and Marva. They're about to create the new Majin. They use Cybermen seeds, which, according to Marva, was sold to outsiders of the Demon Realm. Now, the Cybermen make sense to be from the Demon Realm. I mean, they have the pointy ears. They're very different in terms of how they function. And even just like the technique of exploding. I mean, that could have been magic. That could have been like their type of magic. So there's an argument and I think that is very obvious. And the way they're almost used like an experiment, which you're seeing that kind of theme about science and magic in the Demon Realm. So it makes perfect sense. Now, as far as the Saiyans, because they did say that they're sold to outsiders, this does mean, does this still mean that the Saiyans are from the Demon Realm? It's possible that there's some early progenitor race to the Saiyans. Like, I don't know if it's during like the Yomoshi period, but it's possible. This is before episode 10, so I don't know what may happen later in the series, but it's possible still, but it reminds me of the Granola Ultra Instinct thing. I feel like maybe it's starting to lose a lot of its steam, but again, we have to reserve judgment. Now the final scenes of the episode do show the new Majin Ku, who kind of looks like a gag character, like Uberman or Mr. Satan, a gag character, right? It does look like a cross between Cyberman, Kid Buu, even Pycon, but it's Toriyama like. It serves, it's what you would expect from Toriyama, or even modern Toriyama. The design is very simple, but I think the outlash is kind of silly, because if you had seen Fat Buu, if we could put ourselves in a time capsule and go back to the 1990s and we saw Fat Buu, I think people would have had a similar reaction, like, this is a super design. And obviously when Fat Buu showed that he made business, that he stood on business, obviously that helps, and we haven't seen that yet. So I think it's too early for us to not give Ku a fair chance, but it's obvious he's a gag character. So, but he does speak intelligently, so that's good. I mean, Kid Buu didn't. So basically, he's created, and Arinsu orders Majin Ku to obtain the Demon Realm 1 Dragon Ball. So this is quite the challenge. I really think Tamagami 3 is like Super Saiyan 3 Goku level, maybe even higher. So I mean, this is a good test, and if Majin Ku is able to best him, I mean, that is we'll see how I think the audience will react. But overall, I enjoyed episode 8 and episode 9. The story is moving a lot faster than between episode 1 and 7. And like I said, my only gripes would have been like just the hotel and the subplot with the Dragon Ball being stolen. I wish it could have been a little bit shorter. That's the only real criticism. In terms of an episode rating, I give this like an 8.5, maybe an 8. It's still good. It's not bad. But it's still like on the good end of things. And most of my reviews, if you guys have seen it, I feel like I've been pretty fair. But again, I'm very excited for the lore pacing and kind of these upcoming fights. Yeah, JD signing out. I'll see you guys again for episode 10.